The night began with nothing more than laughter, a wild idea whispered across a dimly lit bedroom. 3 friends sprawled on the floor, surrounded by pillows and half-empty bags of chips, letting their imaginations run free. "Imagine it," Caleb said, eyes glowing with mischief. "A whole superstore. Empty. Ours for the night." Jordan shook his head, grinning but skeptical. "Come on, man. You'd get busted in 10 minutes. Stores have cameras everywhere." "Not if you're smart," Caleb countered, leaning forward. "Think about it. No parents. No rules. Just us racing shopping carts down the aisles, eating all the junk food we want, building forts out of boxes. Doesn't that sound like the greatest night of our lives?" Ethan adjusted his glasses, frowning with hesitation. "Caleb, my dad runs the store. He's got security. If anyone caught me in there, I'd be done for. No birthday gift, no tablet, nothing. Grounded forever." Caleb smirked. "And if we don't get caught?" Jordan raised his brows. "Big if." "Listen," Caleb pressed, lowering his voice like a conspirator. "This isn't breaking in. It's a sleepover, just in a place no one else gets to use. And Ethan, your dad's not going to call the cops on his own kid. At worst, we clean up the mess and laugh it off in the morning." Ethan hesitated. His loyalty to his father's rules pulled against the hunger to belong, to finally be part of something daring. "You're insane," he muttered. But his voice was weaker now, almost wavering. Jordan caught the moment and leaned in. "Dude, come on. Just one night with no rules. You can finally stop being the guy who never takes risks. Live a little." Caleb grinned, sensing victory. "What do you say?" Ethan exhaled slowly, his lips trembling with conflict. Then, like a lock clicking open, he whispered, "Fine. But only if we don't get caught." "Deal?" Caleb said instantly. "You're with professionals here." Jordan scoffed. "Professionals? Last time you called yourself that, we almost got banned from the skate park." "That was different," Caleb shot back, smirking. "This time I've got a foolproof plan." The plan wasn't just scribbles and half-baked fantasies. Caleb had drawn a full map of the store, memorizing hiding spots while his mom shopped. The tent display for sleeping bags. The clothing racks near the security hub. The aisles no one checked twice. Every detail laid out like a heist movie. Saturday came too fast. They spun lies with ease. Caleb telling his mom he'd be at Jordan's house. Jordan swearing to his parents he'd be with Ethan. Ethan whispering carefully rehearsed excuses about a study night. Every word dripped with nervous energy, yet the parents believed. By sunset, backpacks stuffed with snacks, flashlights, and the reckless spirit of 13-year-olds, they stood at the sliding glass doors of Anderson's Superstore. Ethan's father wasn't there that night. The manager was, though, a sharp-eyed woman who would call in any suspicion without hesitation. Caleb's grin never faltered. "Easy," he whispered. "We just blend in. No one notices 3 kids in a crowd." Inside, the air buzzed with fluorescent light. Families pushed carts, workers stocked shelves, voices echoing across aisles. To everyone else it was routine. To the boys it was a ticking countdown. At 8:45 the manager's voice boomed over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, the store will be closing in 15 minutes. Please bring your final purchases to the registers." Caleb shot a look to the others. "Positions." Ethan swallowed, heart hammering. He slipped toward the clothing department, ducking between racks. Jordan stashed his sleeping bag behind the towering camping display, nestling deep in nylon shadows. Caleb himself melted into an aisle stacked with cereal boxes, crouching low. The store began to thin. One by one, families left, carts rattling out into the night. The employees called their good nights. Lights dimmed slightly. Then came the critical moment. The manager checked the doors, glanced around, and set the alarm system. A faint beep echoed, followed by the click of locks. Her footsteps faded. A final car started in the lot. Silence. Caleb's heart pounded in his ears. Then he whispered, almost reverent, "We did it." The 3 regrouped in the toy section, faces glowing with adrenaline. The silence of the massive store was haunting and exhilarating. "Man," Jordan laughed, spinning in a circle. "This is insane." Ethan's voice cracked with nervous excitement. "We're actually locked in." "Correction," Caleb said, spreading his arms wide. "We own this place tonight." What followed was chaos wrapped in joy. Shopping cart races tore down the aisles, echoes bouncing like thunder. They ripped open chip bags, downed sodas, stacked candy like treasure hoards. In the furniture section they built a fortress of pillows and couches. In sporting goods they swung foam bats, pretending to be gladiators. Every laugh was louder than the last, every echo daring fate to intervene. But fate was listening. Around midnight, as they lounged in their fortress with stomachs full of sugar, Ethan froze. A sound. Distant. Too faint to be a car outside, too steady to be the hum of air conditioning. He sat up, eyes wide. "Do you guys hear that?" Jordan stopped chewing. Caleb tilted his head. At first, nothing. Then, the faint scrape of a mop bucket rolling on tile. Caleb cursed under his breath. The janitor. Ethan's pulse spiked. "You didn't say there'd be a janitor." "I didn't know," Caleb hissed. "He must have been hired after those robberies." The sound grew closer, squeaking wheels, the rhythm of footsteps. The boys scrambled, abandoning their fortress. "Split up," Caleb whispered harshly. "Hide." Jordan darted toward the toy aisles, Ethan bolted behind stacked boxes near the stockroom, and Caleb threw himself flat behind a display of laundry detergent. The janitor entered. A tall man in a faded uniform, mop in one hand, bucket squealing as it rolled. His face was lined with exhaustion, his eyes heavy. He hummed quietly to himself, pushing the mop across the tiles. Every sweep of his mop dragged time into slow motion. Every squeak of the bucket made Ethan's chest tighten. The man's humming stopped. He straightened suddenly, turning his head. His eyes narrowed, scanning the dark aisles. Caleb's heart dropped. Did he hear us? The janitor moved slowly, deliberately, rolling the bucket closer to the fortress of pillows the boys had left behind. His eyes fell on a half-eaten candy bar lying on the carpet. He bent down, picked it up, and stared at it. The silence thickened. Jordan's breath caught in his throat. Ethan shut his eyes. Caleb clenched his fists. The janitor whispered to himself, almost too soft to hear. "Kids." He straightened, scanning again. His footsteps began toward the clothing section. Ethan bit his lip, panic rising. If the janitor reached the racks, he'd be found. He could already feel the weight of his father's anger, the shame of being dragged home in the middle of the night. Caleb, watching from his hiding spot, made a decision. He grabbed an empty soda can from the floor and flicked it down the opposite aisle. The clatter echoed like a gunshot. The janitor spun toward the noise, squinting. "Who's there?" His voice was sharper now, edged with suspicion. He began walking away from Ethan's hiding spot, toward the source of the sound. Caleb held his breath, his heart pounding so loud he feared it would give him away. The man's steps echoed, fading into the next aisle. For a moment, relief washed over Caleb. But it was temporary. The janitor wasn't stupid. He knew something was off. From the shadows, Jordan whispered so faintly only Caleb could hear, "We're in trouble, man. Big trouble." And deep down, Caleb knew he was right. The night wasn't just about fun anymore. It had become a game of survival. The janitor's footsteps echoed through the aisles, slow and deliberate. Each squeak of the mop bucket's wheels scraped against the boy's nerves like nails on a chalkboard. Caleb crouched lower behind the detergent display, sweat clinging to his forehead. He wanted to whisper to Jordan or signal Ethan, but the silence was too heavy, too dangerous. One sound, one wrong move, and their night would be over. The man stopped. For a long moment, there was nothing but the hum of the store lights and the steady thrum of Caleb's racing heart. Then the janitor's voice rang out, calm but unsettling. "I know someone's here." Jordan's chest tightened. His hand trembled against the toy shelf as he fought the urge to bolt. Ethan bit down on his sleeve, praying the pounding of his heart wouldn't betray him. The janitor bent down and picked up the soda can Caleb had thrown. He studied it, turning it over in his hands. "Kids," he muttered again, but this time his tone was different. It wasn't tired, it was sharp, suspicious. Caleb cursed under his breath. The man wasn't fooled. Suddenly, the janitor wheeled his bucket down another aisle, his pace quickening. He glanced behind racks, pushed open the swinging doors of the stockroom, peered into the shadows with eyes that seemed to pierce through darkness itself. Ethan clutched his backpack, wishing he could vanish. Every second stretched like an eternity. Finally, the janitor's footsteps faded toward the back of the store. Jordan crept from his hiding spot, meeting Caleb's wide eyes across the aisle. He gestured silently, "We need to get out." Caleb shook his head stubbornly. He wasn't ready to give up. This was supposed to be their night, the one adventure they'd talk about forever. But even as he tried to convince himself, the weight of reality pressed heavier. Ethan crawled out from the clothing racks, his face pale. "He almost found me," he whispered, his voice trembling. "We should go. Seriously. If my dad finds out." Caleb cut him off with a sharp whisper. "Relax. He didn't see us. We just need to stay quiet, stick to the shadows. He'll clean up and leave." Jordan wasn't convinced. "Man, this is bad." "He knows." He's not just cleaning anymore, he's looking for us. Ethan's knees shook. What if he calls the police? Caleb frowned. He won't. Think about it. If we're just kids, he'll try to scare us off first. No way he wants the hassle of filing a report at 2 in the morning. But deep down, even Caleb wasn't sure. They huddled in the dark of the camping aisle, whispering frantically. Their fortress of pillows lay abandoned, a glaring sign of their presence. The janitor would find it, no doubt. They needed a new plan. Caleb's mind raced. Okay, listen. We split up again. Different floors, different hiding spots. If he gets close, distract him. Keep him running in circles until he gives up. Jordan glared at him. That's your brilliant plan? Play tag with a grown man in the middle of a locked store. Caleb's smirk faltered. You got a better idea? Jordan didn't answer. Ethan pressed his palms together, whispering desperately, Please, let's just leave. We can sneak to the back door. Maybe it's not locked. It's locked, Caleb said firmly. Trust me. I checked. Only the front opens and the alarm's still armed. The truth sank in like a stone in water. They weren't just playing anymore, they were trapped. The squeak of the mop bucket returned, closer this time. The janitor's shadow stretched long across the tile. His voice carried through the silence, slow and deliberate. You think I don't know? I've been here 20 years. I see everything. Hear everything. The boys froze. His tone wasn't just suspicious now, it was menacing. Caleb's bravado cracked. For the first time, fear tightened his throat. He's messing with us, he whispered. He has to be. Jordan's eyes darted around. Or maybe he's just crazy. The janitor's footsteps grew louder. He was heading straight for them. Caleb hissed, Run. They scattered, Jordan bolting toward the electronics section, Ethan sprinting down the grocery aisles, Caleb darting through sporting goods. Their sneakers squeaked against the floor, their breath sharp in the stillness. The janitor didn't chase. He walked calmly, almost amused. Run all you want. This is my store tonight. Ethan ducked into the freezer aisle, pressing against the cold glass doors. His chest heaved, his breath fogging the air. Somewhere in the distance, Caleb's voice hissed a curse. Jordan's footsteps echoed, then stopped. Silence swallowed them again. Ethan closed his eyes, praying. But then, clang. A loud crash erupted from the electronics department. Caleb and Ethan whipped their heads toward the sound. Jordan. They rushed over, hearts pounding. Jordan stood near a toppled display of headphones, his face pale. He was right behind me, he whispered. I swear I saw him in the reflection. Caleb grabbed his arm. Where is he now? Jordan shook his head. I don't know. He just vanished. Ethan's voice trembled. This isn't right. He's playing with us. The overhead lights flickered. For a split second, the entire store dimmed into near darkness, then flared back to life. The boys exchanged terrified glances. Caleb tried to steady his voice. It's just old wiring. Stores like this always. But his reassurance shattered as the intercom crackled alive. A low voice, unmistakable, filled the store. You can't hide forever. The boys froze, their blood turning to ice. The janitor's voice echoed from the speakers surrounding them, coming from everywhere at once. Jordan's face drained of color. He's in the office. He's watching us. Ethan's hands shook violently. He's going to call my dad. We're done. Caleb gritted his teeth. No. We get to the office before he does anything. We shut it down. They sprinted toward the back hallway, the echo of their footsteps chased by the janitor's voice, taunting through the intercom. 3 little mice running in circles. I'll catch you one by one. The words crawled into their ears, cold and deliberate. The hallway stretched long and dim. At the end, the office door glowed faintly under a flickering fluorescent light. Caleb shoved it open, the boys tumbling inside. Monitors filled the room, rows of black and white screens showing every corner of the store. And on one of them they saw it, the janitor, standing perfectly still in the toy aisle. But when the camera flickered, he was gone. Ethan gasped. What? How? Jordan's voice cracked. He's not human. Caleb shook his head violently. No, don't say that. He's just messing with the feeds. It's a trick. But even as he said it, his hands trembled. On the desk sat the alarm panel, glowing faintly. If they could reach it, maybe they could unlock the doors. But the boys hesitated, the room heavy with dread. The intercom clicked on again, louder this time. Nice try, boys. But you're already mine. The lights in the office snapped off. The screens went black. The room plunged into darkness. Ethan screamed. Jordan stumbled back. Caleb's hand fumbled for the desk, searching desperately for anything. Buttons, switches, hope. A sudden slam rattled the office door. The janitor's voice, right outside now, whispered through the crack. "Time's up." The slam shook the frame. The office fell even darker, like the night had seeped inside and closed its fist. Caleb's fingers scraped the desk until he found Ethan's sleeve and squeezed. Jordan backed into the filing cabinet and knocked a stapler to the floor. The metal clatter felt like an explosion. Silence. A sliver of light pressed through the door seam. It cut a thin line across the carpet and stopped at Caleb's shoe. His breath shortened. His throat felt sandpaper dry. "Time's up," the voice said again. "Closer now. Right on the other side." The knob turned. The door creaked open an inch. The smell of cleaner drifted in. A soft click followed, and a flashlight cut a white tunnel through the dark. The beam swept the ceiling, then the monitors, then the floor. "Under the desk," the voice whispered. Not a threat. A command. Urgent and low. Ethan froze. Caleb pulled him down. Jordan crawled with them, 3 bodies stuffed in the knee well while the light glanced off the chair legs. The door eased open the rest of the way. The beam dipped. A silhouette filled the doorway. The flashlight clicked off. A whisper again. "Don't move. Don't speak." The door closed with a soft snick, then locked. Only when the footsteps faded did the boys allow themselves to breathe. Caleb swallowed hard. Was that him? Jordan's lips barely moved. "I think so." Ethan's whisper shook. "He told us to hide." On the desk, a radio crackled. It wasn't the store intercom. It was a handheld unit, volume turned so low the boys heard more hiss than words. A second, fainter voice came through, distorted and quick. Caleb caught a phrase. "Loading dock. 2 figures. Crowbar." Jordan's eyes widened. Ethan clapped a hand over his own mouth. Another sound bled through the wall. Metal bowed against metal. A distant complaint of hinges. Something heavy slid. Then the muffled thud of a door forced open. Caleb's stomach dropped. The janitor hadn't been hunting them. He had been hurting them. He had turned off the lights for a reason. He had known more than he let on. Ethan whispered into the dark. "They're real. The robberies." Jordan's whisper was a wire. "He's trying to keep us in here." The radio hissed again. The same faint voice, calmer now. "I see them. Stay inside. Sit tight. I already called it in." Static swallowed the rest. A shadow skimmed past the door again. Keys tapped. A low click. The red power light on one monitor winked on. Then another. The screens bloomed in grainy black and white. The 3 boys peered from the darkness beneath the desk and watched the store come back to life in cold video. On screen 6, a figure in a hoodie moved through receiving, crowbar in hand. On screen 8, a second figure checked the camera with a piece of tape and covered it. On screen 12, a third shape hovered near the garden center gate, testing the chain. Caleb's heartbeat felt like a drumline in his skull. This wasn't a prank or a ghost story. This was a choice that had turned into something far bigger. His mouth went dry. The office doorknob turned again. A rectangle of light cut the floor as the door opened a hand's width. The flashlight clicked on, but the beam stayed low. "Out," the voice whispered. "Quiet." They slid from under the desk and stood, blinking. The flashlight rose. The janitor's face appeared behind it. Not monstrous. Lined and watchful. A scar along his jaw. His name tag caught the light. "Reeves." He spoke without moving his mouth much, as if afraid the walls had ears. 3 of them. Tools. Not kids. "You do exactly what I say." Ethan nodded fast. "Mr. Reeves, I'm—" "Later," he said, calm but firm. He pointed at the monitors. "Watch those screens. If they split, tell me which aisle. You see them near clothing or toys, you lay flat. You hear me say run, you run to the break room and you don't stop. Door has a lock. No windows." Caleb found his voice. You turned off the lights on purpose." "To hide you," Reeves said. "To let them make the first mistake. People who want to be seen show lights. People who want to leave a mark make noise. People who want to protect kids use the dark." Jordan exhaled a breath he had held too long. "Are you calling the police?" "Already did," he said. "And your dad?" Ethan's face crumpled. Shame cut him like paper. "You called my—" Reeves held up a hand. "Don't argue with a lifeline." He stepped into the room and shut the door again, turning the lock. "You 3 keep eyes on those cameras. I'm going to make the store louder than a storm and dumber than a maze. If they follow the noise, they won't find you." "How?" Jordan whispered. Reeves's mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "I know every switch in this building. He moved around the small office with easy speed. A panel on the wall opened to a bank of old toggles. He flipped two. Far away, a floor buffer woke and began to hum, then roll, its cord a long snake behind it. He pressed a button on the console and a looped announcement started to play softly. Attention associates. Code 7 at seasonal. He didn't send it to the main intercom. He routed it to one ceiling speaker over hardware and one over paint. Then he twisted a dial and the hallway lights stuttered, guiding a path like runway markers but not to the office. To nowhere. On screen 8, Hoodie 2 turned toward the sound. He nudged Hoodie 1, pointed, and moved off the loading dock. They crossed into hardware, following the ghost of the buffer's motor. Reeves spoke low. They'll go where the noise is. They always do. He glanced at Ethan, then the boys' backpacks. You spilled candy and toys. They saw that, they would have followed crumbs. You got lucky. Ethan flushed. I'm sorry. Tell your father, Reeves said. Eyes on screen 12. Jordan leaned forward. Garden Center still has one. Reeves nodded. Gates chained from the inside. He'll try for the hinge bolts. He'll be there a while. He pointed to a radio on the desk. If the office door opens and it isn't me, you press that orange button and yell as loud as you can. Then you run. He stepped out again. The door clicked shut. Through the glass of the office window, the boys saw his silhouette slip into the hall, flatten against the wall, then vanish down the stairs. For a minute they could only breathe and watch. Caleb's focus pinned itself to the screens. He called out quietly when a figure moved left. Jordan tracked them past aisle numbers, whispering numbers as if he could will time to speed up. Ethan watched the clock at the bottom corner and counted the seconds between Reeves's switches and the intruder's reactions. He hated that he understood it. He hated that Reeves had been forced into this and it was partly their fault. Footsteps scuffed in the hallway and Ethan flinched. The knob stuttered, then settled. Not the door. The air conditioner coughing to life. Another switch Reeves had thrown. It blew from vents over housewares and shook the dangling tags. On the screen, Hoodie 1 flinched and raised his crowbar like a sword at a ghost. A distant thwack cracked the quiet. The sound came from small appliances. A blender box dropped. Another thwack. A toaster. The floor polisher had nudged a display. Hoodie 2 moved toward it, shoulders hunched. Hoodie 1 followed, looking back over his shoulder often. They had stopped being confident. They were starting to get nervous. Caleb felt an edge of hope. It's working, he whispered. He's pulling them away. Jordan's voice stayed thin. What if they split again? Then Reeves splits them again, Ethan said almost to himself. There was awe in his voice he didn't try to hide. He's playing chess and they brought a crowbar. Sirens wailed, still far. The sound climbed and sank as the cars turned streets. The boys froze at the first hint, then leaned closer to the glass as if they could drag the police in by will alone. On screen 5, the garden center figure abandoned the hinge bolts and pushed at the glass. He gave up, cursed, then moved back toward receiving. Garden center is moving, Jordan whispered. Which hall? Caleb asked. North, Jordan said. He'll hit power tools first. Ethan's fingers tightened on the desk. Mr. Reeves is there. They all held their breath. The office radio cracked again. That same faint voice. Front lot sees movement. 2 units, 3 out. 1 minute. Caleb found a small courage he hadn't had before. He reached out and placed his hand over Ethan's. We're going to make it. Ethan nodded, not trusting his mouth yet. He watched screen 3. He saw the edge of a jacket. Reeves popped into view just long enough to pull a gate down across the aisle, then slid it back up, then down, teasing the line of sight. He wanted the intruder to see the gate move and come closer. He wanted to draw him to the cage and then lock it. Come on, Caleb murmured. Take the bait. The figure did. He hurried toward the gate, pushed it up, ducked under. Reeves stayed out of frame. When the intruder's back passed the threshold, the gate slammed and locked. The man jerked back too late. He grabbed the bars and rattled them hard. The camera shook a little with the force. Caleb bit down a shout. Jordan's eyes went wide. Ethan sagged against the desk. He had not realized he had been holding his breath again. On screen 8, the other 2 intruders abandoned appliances and cut right toward electronics. A minute. Maybe less. The sirens grew louder. Reeves's voice came through the office intercom this time. Come. Measured. Break room. Now. Ethan yanked the door. They ran. The hallway felt miles long. Their sneakers thumped the tile too loud. Caleb kept looking back. Jordan kept looking forward. Ethan counted doors to steady his own fear. 1, 2, 3 break room. They slid inside and locked it. The room smelled like coffee and reheated soup. A soda machine buzzed by the wall. The boys crouched behind a long table and waited. Voices echoed outside. Not Reeves. Not kind. They were close. The handle jiggled once. Then again. Caleb's heart tried to climb out of his chest. Then the store woke up in a roar. Lights flooded the front. The intercom popped with a recorded message. Attention. Police are en route. Please remain where you are. The words repeated louder. A bell at the front entrance began to clang, a manual pull Reeves must have set. The intruders cursed. The handle jiggled one last time and then the footsteps went away fast. Sirens split the night. A shout threw itself down the hall. Police. Hands. No. The boys didn't move. They couldn't. They just shook and held on to whatever was close. The table leg. A sleeve. The edge of a trash can. The break room door opened only when Reeves knocked 3 times and said, "It's me." His voice had lost that cold edge. He sounded like a person again. Tired. Steady. They stood. They were taller than when they had crouched. Or maybe just older. Reeves looked them over. Everyone in one piece? They nodded. He grunted. Good. Come on. The hallway glittered with red and blue from the front of the store. 2 officers had one intruder on the floor in cuffs. Another was pressed to the wall, palms flat. The third was in the caged aisle, still yelling through the bars. Ethan caught a glimpse of Mr. Anderson at the front door with the manager, worry written all over his face. When he saw his son, every line deepened and softened all at once. Ethan. His voice cracked. He stepped forward but stopped, as if there was more than distance between them. He looked at Reeves, then the boys, then the mess. What were you thinking? The question carried more pain than anger. It landed harder because of that. Ethan's mouth opened and closed. He had practiced lies all week, but he had none now. Tears blurred the lights. I wanted one night with no rules, he said. His own words sounded small. I didn't think. Mr. Anderson took a slow breath and nodded once, like he had heard an honest confession he had been waiting to hear. He put a hand on Ethan's shoulder and kept it there. Then he looked at Reeves. You called me. Soon as I knew, Reeves said. Saw the candy first. Then the map. Then the sleeping bag. Kids hide like kids. Robbers hide like they know the cameras. Didn't take long to tell which was which. He nodded toward the front. They came in on the dock. Figured they'd keep doing it until someone got hurt. Figured that someone could be yours if I didn't move fast. Mr. Anderson swallowed. You moved fast. Reeves shrugged. I mop slow so I can run fast when I have to. An officer stepped over. We'll need statements. He glanced at the boys. You 3 are lucky. Jordan nodded hard. We know. Caleb stepped forward. He didn't try a joke. Not one. We're sorry, he said to Mr. Anderson. This was my idea. I pushed him. I thought it would be fun. It wasn't. Mr. Anderson's eyes sat heavy on Caleb for a long moment. Fun ends the second someone else pays for it. He looked at the toppled displays, the caged aisle, the flashing lights. He looked at Reeves. Thank you. Reeves nodded once. Get them home. Bring them back tomorrow. Ethan blinked. Tomorrow? Reeves's gaze found all 3 boys in turn. You made a mess. You helped fix it. You owe this store and the people in it a full day. Maybe a full week. Maybe more. You mop with me. You stack shelves. You learn the camera so the next time you walk into a place like this, you respect the work people do to keep it safe. Caleb said yes before anyone else. Not because he wanted to. Because he understood that it was part of being allowed to leave. Jordan nodded. We'll be here. Ethan looked at his dad. I'll do whatever you say. Mr. Anderson squeezed his shoulder. We will talk at home. Then we'll be here. They gave statements. They watched the officers lead the intruders out. They watched the lights go from loud to muted. The manager wiped her eyes and thanked Reeves in a way that made him look at his shoes. The store settled into a tired calm. Morning crept up on the windows like a secret. When they finally stepped outside, the air was cold and smelled like wet asphalt. The sky had that bruised color the world gets before sunrise. Birds thought about singing and then didn't. Mr. Anderson unlocked his car and waited while the boys climbed in. He didn't start it yet. He turned toward Ethan, and the quiet stretched long enough to be honest. You could have been hurt, he said. You could have been taken. You could have made Reeves fight alone. He shook his head, not in rage but in grief. You wanted a night with no rules. You forgot rules are how you come home. Ethan's lip trembled. I know. You're grounded, Mr. Anderson said. No tablet. No games. No sleepovers. You wake up, you come here and you help Reeves. You say thank you until he believes it. I will, Ethan said. It felt light to say because it felt right. Caleb leaned forward from the back seat. Mr. Anderson, I'll work too. Jordan raised a hand. Me too. Mr. Anderson nodded once. Good. All three of you. You started this together. You finish it together. He started the car. The city stretched its back and yawned. The boys sat in that thin space between end and consequence and watched the store shrink in the rearview. They returned the next afternoon. Reeves handed them mops and had them push water until their arms shook. He showed them the blind spots on camera angles and made them stand in each one until they could draw the edges by memory. He gave them a list that started with candy and ended with apology. They wrote a note to every employee who cleaned up after them. They stacked pillows back into shapes that were not forts. They ate lunch at the break room table and did not speak for a long time. Work turned into a week. The week turned into 2. The punishment changed shape and became something else. Respect fits poorly when you first try it on. Then it becomes yours. On the last day, Mr. Anderson walked them to the front doors and stopped. He looked at his son, then at the other two. I'm still mad, he said. But I'm grateful I'm mad at you in person. Ethan hugged him without waiting for permission. Mr. Anderson's laugh sounded like relief, trying not to cry. He reached into a bag and pulled out a tablet. Not new, not top of the line, but clean and working. He held it in his hand between them. I said no tablet, he said. I meant it. But this isn't a reward. This is a tool. You use it to do your homework. You use it to call home. You use it to make plans I'm allowed to hear. Ethan nodded so hard his hair fell into his eyes. Yes, sir. Mr. Anderson looked at Caleb and Jordan. Your parents know everything. They said thank you to Reeves too. You three are on a short leash for a long time. We get it, Jordan said. Caleb managed a small smile. Short leashes save lives. Reeves pushed a cart past them and stopped. He looked at the three boys and gave a nod that meant more than a speech. You did the work, he said. You cleaned your mess. Next time you want a night worth remembering, ask for a night shift. Caleb blinked. You mean? Volunteer, Reeves said. Stock shelves. Earn the story. Jordan laughed once. That's the least dangerous sentence I have heard in weeks. They stepped outside into bright day. The glass doors slid shut behind them with a whisper. The parking lot was just a parking lot again. No sirens. No lies. Just cars and carts and the hum of a normal afternoon. Caleb looked back at the store, then at his friends. We wanted to own the place for a night. Jordan shook his head. The place owned us. Ethan tucked the tablet under his arm and smiled, small but real. Good. We needed it. They walked to the curb and waited for the light. When it changed, they crossed together, not running, not sneaking. They went home the way they should have gone in the first place. With rules. With people who cared. With a story that did not need to be bigger to mean more. That night, Caleb lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. The dark didn't feel like a trap anymore. It felt honest. He pulled out his phone and typed a message to the group. Next time we plan a movie marathon. At my place. I'll ask my mom. No tricks. Real snacks. Start at 9. End at 9:30. Jordan replied with a thumbs up. Ethan sent a picture of a mop and a laughing face. Caleb grinned until he fell asleep. In his dreams, the store did not chase him. It did not whisper. It was a place lit by quiet work and the sound of wheels on tile. Somewhere in that slow glow, a man in a faded uniform flipped a switch and made the whole thing safer without asking for credit. The dream ended where it should. With a door opening into morning and 3 kids stepping through it, older by the weight of what they had learned. They didn't need a night with no rules anymore. They needed people who would lock the door when it mattered and show them where the keys were when the time was right.